What's up, Gal? I just realized that, like, the thumbnail for this video is a photo of a print farm beta, which is a photo from literally about 5 years ago when were over in that old space. It looks sick, but it's like wildly out of date also. But you know what? I'm not upset about it. I'm just like observation. Let's see here. We're gonna go ahead and get the Instagram guys rolling over there. And we will title this up Saturday Q and A. That's kind of difficult to even maintain there the whole time. If we're being real clever, I want to see if I can also get some modeling up all over the place. Let's go with this 3D print pricecalculator.com. We'll just get this up into the corner. Hey, what's up, Christian? How's it going? Gonna go ahead and do a screen share here. Window. There we go. Sure. There we are. Daryl Watts. Hey, what's up, Daryl? How goes it? Where's my? I'm gonna see if I can see how much stuff I can multitask on here today. What's up, y'all? Tabusk, Tibsa. I don't. Footnote Gallery. How's it going? Let's see here. Okay. Do we have? I hope it's working. We're gonna hope it's working here the whole time. Robert, hello. How's it going? No, we're in Idaho. Daryl, set up in Idaho. It's good times. Good times. All right. I have not used Shaper in quite some time. So we're going to see how this goes. There we go. Hopefully that's active now. There we are. Nice. I do not need this. In this test. Okay. Nice. If we go ahead. Yeah, I don't mean to like be an Apple shell right over here on the Instagram, but hey, how's it going, Making Layers? And David Penley, how's it going? Anybody have any questions here? I'm gonna mess around with Shaper for a second, and then just go from there. But first thing I got to do is figure out how to suppress the side window, which appears to be a bigger shenanigan than I thought. Let's go ahead and go circle. Nice. And then if I go ahead and grab that, I can go ahead and extrude that. Add. Transform tools. There we go. Extrude that up. Just like that. Nice. I know I'm like not including anybody on this. I'm just getting my own bearings in the world here, and I will I'll be back in just a second. Let's see here. Okay, well, anybody got questions? I wanted to ask if we can download the STL files for the can shooter thing we created. Can't download the files. We're using the can shooter as like a demo of catalog, but you're able to add the files to your Etsy store or your Shopify store or whatever it happens to be, so that whenever you get an order for it, that version of the file will be printed and shipped for you. What we're doing, what we're doing is that we are showing off how catalog works and how it protects designers. So with these files inside of catalog, no one can download the STL and just run with it or remix it or store it on your computer or something like that, which is a really big unlock for designers, because now the STL is never shared, so the designer continues to have control of it. If we wanted to take these off of catalog, then no one would be able to sell them anymore. And that is very valuable because it means the designer has control. So we're using these can launchers as like the demo of that, because next week we're going to be talking about catalog itself and how it solves all these problems for mechanical design or file protection for designers. Because right now, the only option designers have is to upload the STL and then everybody downloads the STL, which is terrible because you just lost the STL. Anyone can sell it, move it around, whatever it was, and the designer can't stop things from being illegally used except by report it to the platform and hopefully the platform responds. With catalog, the designer will have a switch to where if they flip that switch, people will stop having access to the file. And that's huge protection for the designers so that now people can actually create awesome stuff like this and know that they're not going to lose control of it. So we're using the CAN launchers like the first demo of that. And then next week, when we're talking about catalog, we get to show off how it works using the CAN launcher as one of the examples. So we've got this multi-phase plan of releasing this so that Teleport and Teleport Catalog becomes a new way for designers to monetize their designs and ensure that they are truly protected. And then sellers, of course, get access to 1,000 machines to produce these things for them, which is good for everybody. It's a win for everybody all the way around the circle because sellers get manufacturing capacity, designers get protection, and Slant 3D, we get to use our print farm. So all of us can pay our bills. Let's see. Just like to know where we can get your filament online. Daryl, it's tangledfilament.com is where the filament is. So actually, let's go over there. Tangledfilament.com. We should have PCTG releasing over here in just a little while. And then, yeah, you got all the filament. Glut is out of stock. Oh, look at that. That's not too surprising. We got gray and we got black. And by the way, guys, I love this iconography. Let me just talk about this for a moment. Filament is filament is filament. It's PLA. So when there's no delineation about what it is, you just want to make it really clear what spool you're getting and how much it is. So this is 3 1 kilogram spools, and this is 1 3 kilogram spool. And that's how we did it, so that you can just very quickly scroll through the site and see everything that you want to see. And then you got other things and that kind of stuff. But this is a little bit more addy than I thought it was going to be. What do we have for blog? We are making a change. Oh, yeah, all the things. I'm going to go back to calculator. Calculator is more fun. But yeah, you can get our $10 PLA online at tangledfilament.com. Let's go to, I could probably do STL Bash. Do we have STL Bash open somewhere? There we are. We got this one. I got designs all over the place. Hey, Nico, Simone, MX, and VBN. How's it going, guys? Next question. I did a video for the can shooter with the AI you showed me this week. Oh, sick. So you use VO3? VO3 is fantastic for making videos. Oh, nice. You're doing, Christian, you're going to do a new beer related. That's a good idea. It's a good idea. A beer related Etsy store. That's a really good idea. I'll bet you'll probably do well. No need of the calculator when you use Teleport. Yeah, we tell you what the price is as soon as you upload it, and then you just price it higher. Let's see here. Absolutely understand not giving it out, but I was hoping to print a prototype. Oh, gotcha, making layers. Yeah, if you need the prototype, there's the prototyper inside of Teleport. Well, wait a second. You may not have had access to catalog files inside of Teleport. We're fixing that. The guys were working on that last week. So catalog files will be accessible inside of Teleport so that you can get prints and get photography of it. But also, if you need photography, like Christian was saying there a moment ago, on the Reddit page, we have a few photography tools here to where you can go to a GPT and click on these, and it'll create product photography for you. So if you look at the Slant Pod website, this is an AI photo. It is this object, but in an AI photo. So we did take a picture with this on a set, and it was like a cell phone picture really fast. And then we said, put this on a truck bed out in a field. And then it filled in the rest of it and gave the Coke can some motion lines and that kind of stuff so that it just looks like it's more dynamic than what normal product photography could do. Why do you never talk about slicer settings? Because slicer setting, Chair Force Gaming, the reason I never talk about slicer settings is because slicer settings are a hack. They're an in-between post-processing process for the part that if you start leaning into using the slicer for everything, you get yourself really limited because the slicer does not have a lot of functionality. It tells a tool where to move. That's all it's supposed to do. And that means that if one of the 200 settings inside of a slicer are different from one slicer to the next, or if the material is different, or if the machine is slightly different, or if the rotation of the earth is different. The slicer settings are not robust. They do not work on every printer, every place, every setting, everywhere. So it is better to design any given part so that it can work on any slicer, on any machine at any time. And that just means following really good rules of design for manufacturability, because the slicer is a final tune. And yes, if you're really engineering specifically, you can use the slicer for all kinds of powerful functions, but you have to understand it. But if people are just trying to get an object made, they need to follow basic good design rules that are not very well understood to create something that can be produced at any time. Because if you're a file designer and you're sharing the file with a bunch of people, not all of your people will have the same printer. But if you design with a particular tolerance for your slicer and your material, because like this brown will have a different tolerance than this black, if you don't design it so that it works universally, then if you design it just for slicer settings, it will break when someone with a different machine or a different slicer tries to use it. So to create a really good file, you just want to design independent of the slicer. So that's what we teach. Why do you, part of what he's trying to teach is how to make products so that you're slicing setting independent. There you go. That's a way shorter, more concise way of thinking of what I just said. Question: how much slop for your internal moving parts would you suggest I use for your printers? I have used 0.3 on either side for moving parts. Adam, I would probably say like 0.2 is about the lowest. Bigger is better. As much slop as you can possibly use and still have a good part, go ahead and use. Like that's the rule. Whenever making parts, you want them to be as low tolerance and as high clearance as you can possibly get, because then you know it works everywhere, on every setting, on every machine, at different scales, always. So go as big as you can without hurting the product. But if you need to, because it'll lower your cost, make life easier, make sure parts always work, all the rest of it. But if you need to go down super small, I would say go down to like 0.2. That's generally fine. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's generally fine. We can go down to 0.1, but I don't recommend it because it becomes very unstable. Because again, like a really sticky PLA will stick differently than like a matte PLA, and now your parts change. The only issue the AI misses is the handle for the small can shooter. Really? That's pretty darn close. I guess it's flattening the bottom a little bit more, but that's pretty much it. If you are in the AI and it goes off the rails, just prompt it a couple more times and like reinforce the reference image that it's using. Always screw up the handle of the small version for some reason. I try different angles. I even tell him how bad he was, and then I give it up. Christian, make sure that you are feeding reference photography. So like feeding this photo in or feeding screenshots of the STL in, because it needs as much visual reference as it can to reinforce what the shape of the can is. If you show it just one version of the can, then you could lose it. How's it going, Victor? Vidali? What's up, everybody over here on Instagram? Is there... If I list the product on my Etsy store and I print it through Teleport and the customer is unhappy, who handles the refund? It would be on you. You would handle the refund, but inside a Teleport, you still have immediate cancellation. So like if the print quality was bad or something like that, you can have it be our fault. The cancel and refund inside a Teleport is totally free. So there is a button next to every single order and you can cancel it and immediately get a refund. We understand that that is dangerous, but we also expect that our sellers are reasonable. If it was your fault, please don't have us refund it for you because we're not subsidizing your business. But if it's our fault, absolutely cancel it immediately. And that way you don't have any friction to make sure we're doing it right. If anything shows up because of bad print quality, we will always replace it. So yeah, within Teleport and the rest of it, we always wanted to make sure that we and the sellers are totally aligned. So one of those alignments are the fact that we just have an instant refund button. So if a part shows up and the print quality is not up to snuff, then the seller can hit cancel and refund and immediately get their money back. So if they have to refund the customer, they can do that. But if you contact us inside of Teleport, we're going to be adding in a resend button. So if you just need a replacement because of like print quality and the customer's like or broken shipping or something like that, then you can hit a button and hit resend. So our job is to make sure that the right part is delivered on time. And if it is a part out of catalog, it has been qualified. We know it's printable. We can't say, "Oh, bad design manufacturing," because it's a catalog file. We approved it inside of there. So we want to make sure that we're helping out the sellers as much as possible. If the part is not good enough, hit that button. You immediately get your money back, and that makes sure that we're staying honest. Right now, that button is hit 1 out of 300 orders. Actually, it's even lower than that, but about 1 out of 300 orders. So that and that is better than the number of packages that are delivered successfully. UPS quotes 1% of packages could disappear in shipping. So we're doing better than them, even though we have to use them. So that's pretty good. We're just taking care of everybody as best as we can. Newbie question: what are your steps when you set up a new filament? How do you dial it in? It's fairly typical. You set up, we have some calibration prints. So some baseline model prints that we have of like overhang, fit, tolerance, so on and so forth. If we introduce some new material, Farouk, I'll get to you in just a second. If we introduce a new material, we have to print those calibration prints and then make sure all of them are coming out to spec. And we tweak the slicing settings for those parts until they come out to spec. And that's how we qualify a new material at any given time. Farouk, is it possible to use PLA for snap joints? Other filaments are not available. Yeah, Farouk, you can totally do that. Make sure you design them appropriately. If you're doing snap joints, make sure you design them like this. Again, people up here. Make sure that they're in the plane of the layers. That way they bend along the layers. And that way you can use PLA just fine. This is a PLA part right here. It is also matte PLA, which is super brittle, but it will continue to shoot cans for a long time and have that flexibility inside of there. What modeling software do you use? I'm learning Fusion 360 is nearly unusable for complex geometry. It depends on the complex geometry. Yeah, Fusion's tough if you're doing like organic shapes and plane wings and that kind of stuff. But I use Fusion for a lot of stuff personally. The company uses Fusion for mechanical designs, but it's designed for mechanical designs. So there's all this kind of stuff. Oh, you know what? I really like that on the Instagram stream because that like frames the chat down at the bottom very nicely so I can see it. Let's see here. What's up, Andrew? Is there, as far as if you want complex modeling, like organic modeling, you can, I would say, go ahead and use Blender or something like that. Those are some of the best ways of doing it. Okay. I'm going to kind of answer emails and any recommended dimensions to avoid my constant cracking of snap joints. 1 millimeter thick. That gives you flexibility on it. Farouk, go to our YouTube channel, and we have several snap fits and connector videos, and we walk through designing those, and they are all printed and demonstrated in PLA. Because PLA is fast and easy to prototype in. So go ahead and watch those videos, and they go into the detail of it. Question. I'm the one with the orientation issue. Had the exact same name, and the thumbnail was correct, but then opened it, and it was sideways. Adam, can you give me more info? I don't know you. I don't have a past context for this in this moment. Give me more context so I know what's up with here. So you're uploading it to Teleport and it's showing up crooked inside of Teleport. If you need to fix that, a really easy way is to pull it here into STL Builder. Pull your model into STL Builder here. Make sure it's oriented correctly on this build plate. And then you're good to go. So that's the build plate. Drop in your STL, reorient it, and then you can go ahead and download the model right here. I guess you guys can't see it. I'm blocking it with my face, but there's a download button. So you can click on that right there. And then if you upload that STL to Teleport, it'll be in the correct orientation. We are working on a number of tools for upload and that kind of stuff to reorient models, but it's not been in the hierarchy of priorities we need to work on, that one's not up there right now because we got other stuff we got to do. It's not going to radically increase the usability of the platform because we have tools like this around. I think you were discussing making a tool that would help with generating new listings on Etsy, and am I remembering correctly? Depends on how much you want new listings on, how much of the new listing on Etsy. We're going to, right here on Reddit, we'll release a GPT that will help you with product descriptions. And of course, there's the one with product photos right here for generating that stuff. And then inside of Teleport, there's some upgrades with interaction to Etsy that are coming here fairly soon. But Etsy is very difficult to work with, guys. Like, just supremely difficult to work with. So, oh, sweet, Farouk. Glad you're seeing those. But Etsy's just bunch of buttheads, and they don't help you out at all, and they really do not want to work with third-party developers. So it's just difficult all the time to interact with them because they just do not want to help. They're doing their thing. They don't want to help you, all this stuff. So any project with them, we know will be slow and we know will be fragile because Etsy moves all the time and they do not let their developers know about it or anything else. 2 years ago, when we built our first version of the Etsy integration, it was called Etsy Corduroy, which was basically like the first version of Teleport. And Etsy blew it up about 2 months after we had it. We would be months ahead of where we are if Etsy didn't screw us. They literally emailed us in like September and said, hey, in October, all your apps are going to break and are not going to function at all. And we were like, what now? What now? So like we scrambled for that month building out the solution, which is now kind of the industry standard. If anybody ever copies us or anything like that, they're going to use the methods that we did. And that's also how we know someone's copying us because we were the first ones to do it. But yeah, so there'll be more functionality with Etsy we're working on. But again, like it's just so difficult to work with Etsy. Do you have any detailed guidelines about Artillery Genius 3D printer? No, Farouk, I don't know anything about the Artillery Genius. I don't review 3D printers, so I have no idea what's up with any of those things. How's it going, Austrian? St. Pekowski? What's up? Okay. Have you checked out Etsio? I think they have tools that have already been built. Maybe you two can piggyback. I don't know. I haven't seen Etsio. Let's see what they do. Let me turn that off while I'm browsing around here. Etsio. I will say I don't like the name. The name is really bad. It would have to have an API. Pricing. Here's the thing. Like, okay, it's not unreasonable. Oh. So they do an optimization for $2 per listing. I don't think they're using AI for this. I think they're doing a manual review of your shop. And if it's a manual review of shop, I'm not going to allow it. Oh, it's hers. Dylan. Dylan, who's the woman who runs Etsio, apparently, she is an Etsy influencer and a how-to Etsy person. Interesting. I know her. I know of her actually very well. We did reach out to do a collaboration with her in another avenue. But what are the features? I think she's probably doing it manually, not with actual AI. Automatically generates optimized keywords and titles, turning clicks into customers. I think we would probably, there's other tools. Everbee is another one for Etsy shop optimization. I've used Everbee in the past. We used to run about 5 or 10 top 1% Etsy stores. And we used Everbee to optimize those. Okay. Yeah, I'm not against this, but like you can plug this into your Etsy app. It doesn't need to be inside a Teleport. Etsio and Everbee and that kind of stuff you can use on your Etsy store. For Teleport, with Teleport, we always got to be really careful because Teleport can turn into almost anything. But we are a 3D printing company. We are a fulfillment company. We are a distribution company. So it is our job to make sure that we are printing fast and reliably. So if we get distracted by like, oh, we're going to help you optimize your listings, that can be a distraction if we are not the very, very best at printing and shipping stuff, which is what our job is. Gotcha. Is the name at least better than PCTG? Not really. Like, here, let me show you the branding. I am going to roast branding here for just a second because yes, this is important for people. This logo sucks. ET SEO. They're going for SEO. I got that. You cannot use Etsy in the name of it because that would be copyright infringement on Etsy. But they want relationship to Etsy. But they designed this completely non-related thing. They should have at least made the logo orange so you're adjacent to Etsy. This green and white motif, not a fan of. Again, they're using Etsy. They should have done warm brown pastel colors. Let's see here. What does the homepage look like? Let me get to the homepage. I'll just roast this site. For number one tool for scaling on Etsy. I don't know if it's the number one tool. I hate that as an engineer, but good for them. That's a good quick grab discount to get people in the door. I'm fair with that. It's like our 30 days for premium that we give everybody who signs up for Teleport. Boost your Etsy sales with one click. Meet SEO. The name is not bad because the name verbally, SEO, you can say it's fine. It gets the point across. That's pretty good. I hate this word. It's ugly. It's gross. Yeah, it's not playful or fun, but it's probably fine. So yeah. But if I was being a logo designer, I'm sure there's some other way to go at this. I don't know what it is right now. I just know that there's some other way because there's always another way. So yeah, that's my opinion about that. But I don't like it. PCTG is worse because SEO, at least you know what it's about. PCTG, you have no flipping idea what it is. So it's awful. It's funny, over on Tangled, we're working on releasing PCTG. I think we're going to be able to get $20 PCTG turned loose. Might even be this weekend. I am actually actively working on that today. I wish I could have a better tease, but that's the thing. We're going to get it released. We are doing it with a production partner. We're not actually extruding that ourselves. We're working with another folks who have more of a supply chain for it. Hey, Gabe. Sorry if I caused undue concerns yesterday. I'm getting old. Oh, hey, Rick. I saw that. Someone was following the stream, and then they posted on the Reddit that the robots.txt was missing. It was not. I'm sorry, Rick. But also, I kind of misstated what the robot.txt for. I said it defines what is crawled on your site, which is true, but it is more accurate to say it defines what is not crawled on your site. So the robots.txt, you would say, hey, Google, don't crawl my site. Hey, OpenAI, don't crawl my site. Or don't crawl these pages because it's my stuff. If you don't have a robot.txt, Google will crawl your whole website indiscriminately. So it's really not necessary, and it didn't hurt anything with the portals at all. And it was also still present. So I don't know how you disappeared for you, Rick, but yeah, it's been there. And yeah, it was fine. But yeah, somebody went over on Reddit and made some post about it for a second that was just incorrect. But you know, it comes with doing videos every single day. People will misunderstand you all the time, and you get used to it and you move. There was nothing wrong with portals. Portals is fine, doing great. It was really cool with portals the other day. I shared a post on LinkedIn, and I can't remember if we did it on Reddit or somewhere else. But we were doing payouts. People had requested payouts, and a guy had requested a payout on portals for $500. I was like, that's awesome. Someone on portals is making real money. And that's so satisfying to build a system that is creating that much value for people. That you can upload a file and in 30 seconds you're selling it and then you make $500. And this is not his first payout. He's kind of been continuously running this direction. That was awesome to see that someone could do that. And anybody in the world can now do that. Portals is international. Anybody can upload a file there and start building TikTok videos around it and start selling stuff, which is awesome. No, talking about fusion branding reminds me of when Connecticut General was purchased by Insurance Company of North America. The new company was named CIGNA, and the branding specialist was paid a hefty fee. Yeah. People sometimes misunderstand brand because brand is a customer interaction. So if your brand is like bad, that's a bad customer interaction. It has nothing to really do with the appearance. You can have an ugly brand or an out of whack brand and that kind of stuff, and it can still be endearing if you recognize that it's ugly and out of whack. But brands, it's kind of like not when an old guy dresses in teenager clothes that demonstrably he's not comfortable in and doesn't wear right and probably shouldn't be wearing. That's what it's like when a company rebrands themselves to say, like, we're new and fresh now. And you're like, no, you're the old insurance company. Don't do that. We were fine with you being the old insurance company. Don't try to be hip now because you're not good at it. If you can be good at it, that's great. Apple is good at it. Apple is run by a bunch of 65-year-old men, and yet 1 billion people a year buy a phone from them. And it is still an object of desire, even though everybody has one. It's so weird. Apple is such a fantastic exercise in study and branding. I'm fascinated by that. Design question. How do you do that flat area that requires support in CAD instead of slicer supports? I understand the fin idea. How do you do that flat area that requires support in CAD instead of slicer supports? You can design in the CAD underneath it. A really easy way of doing design supports is if you're printing something like this. You draw a construction plane underneath it, and then you draw a square, and then you say extrude up to this face, and you give it an offset of 0.2. And you have just created CAD support. And that's very often very good. The other option, if you're doing the fin design, where you have a sideways mounted part just like this, and you want a support fin right there, you have the support pin running along the edge, about 1 millimeter of distance in there, and then you have horizontal spokes, spines, sprues, tines, fingers. Those are all synonyms. Horizontal, running into the part, not touching, not on the outer edge, not close, into it. It is part of it, so that the support fin is part of the part. And that way you can snap it off and it supports the part in both directions. Okay. Guys, I have to do, is there any 3D printing news right now that I should talk about? Because we didn't record podcast on Wednesday like I normally do. I'm actually going to record it after this stream. And I need topics. So what are topics that you want as a deep dive in podcast tomorrow? Because I'm going to record it this afternoon and get it uploaded. And yeah, that is going to be what happens. I might record it here. We might do it on Livestream. What the heck not? I got to do it anyway. I'm going to do this live stream for an hour, and then I can record podcast live. And you guys will know what the podcast is tomorrow. Or maybe I'll tease just a chunk of it or something like that. And we can go from there. 3D printing news. I need 3D printing news. The 3D printing news. Let's see here. There's so, man. Yeah, but I need topics. Why filament changers don't matter. You trying to get me in trouble, David? Here's the thing. Do you mean filament changers like the multiple tool heads, or filament changers as in like the EMS and like some of the open source ones that are coming out? There was a cool multi-nozzle open source project I saw. They used induction heating and just swapped the nozzle, not the whole head. Yeah, Index and what's Bamboo's multi-changer? Valkyrie, Vortec. They both use induction heating. They got it all scale up, the AMS. In production, filament changers don't matter because they're not helpful. In prototyping, they're terribly useful, I think. Because in prototyping, you want to create multiple colors. But in production, multiple colors is a deeply dangerous feature because it creates a lot of complexity in your flow. There's a lot of like small print farms that are like, we've got a ton of Bamboo machines with AMSs on top. And I'm like, your life must be hell. because you aren't going to get to 200 machines with 4 colors on top, because you'll never have the right colors. People will mix them up. Like it's always so indicative to me of like the scale of the operation when they're like, oh no, obviously you can do this, that, and the other stuff. We do it all the time. And I'm like, you make a living as a solo founder there. Now make that 100 times bigger. Do you want multiple changers on 10,000 machines where each one of those machines has a bespoke color combination on it and one of their spools is always dry? Hellhole. 3D printing news. Let's see here. We got this. Hey, there's a new bed changer on Kickstarter. I'm not going to talk about that because there's going to be piles of them all the time. Everybody's getting on the bandwagon for that. I'm over it. It's been done. It's not hard to do. No. Oh, and somebody bought the article anyway, so I don't care. 3D printed footwear moves closer to mainstream. Oh, Zellerfeld's rolling, man. Guys, here's the thing. Like, if you want to know a really good, I'm super excited for what Zellerfeld is doing. It's so cool to see them go, because I knew Cornelius back in 2018 when he was a kid in a basement with a 3D printer with his partner, and they were working on trying to make these 3D printed shoes. And quite frankly, I did not like those 3D printed shoes at all. I thought they were ugly and not very good. But the fact that he kept on going at it, eventually got into Founders Fund, and has been scaling up ever since and just killing it. I'm like, good work, man. I have a note for a discussion topic here. Okay, here's there is a note. I have 2 podcast versions that I can do this week. How's it going, B-Rad? Cochasso, Sullivan, K3D. How's it going, guys? 2 topics for podcast this week. I will let you all vote, and I will do that for the podcast, the discussion topic. So everybody, let me know which one you want. Let me get the page to load here. For whatever reason, it's not right now. Oh my gosh. Load me out, because it's been 2 days in security. Even though my password is the word password. Let's see here. YouTube, a podcast. Got to go into our production to-do list and all this other stuff. Here, I'll give you guys a teaser. So like, this is our task manager. We use ClickUp for our task managing and like our content planning. And okay, so the 2 topics for discussion this week are personal and industrial. The first discussion topic prompt is, I used to be a night owl. Here's why I'm not anymore. That's the first discussion topic. Or I can do the discussion topic, the 3D printing industry thinks too small. That's the other discussion topic. Which of those 2 do you think I should do for the podcast tomorrow? Everybody, let me know your vote. While everybody's voting on that, I'll move to this next question. Topic, how to source employees. So sourcing employees is an exercise of repetition. There is nothing that I can say that will have you source an employee perfectly on the first try. I probably had to hire somewhere between 15 and 25 people before I started to get in a rhythm to where I knew what the weirdness was. But functionally, tactically, how you hire employees is you post a job on Indeed and you describe the job as you want it to be. Start with that. I want to pay somebody 50 cents an hour and they're going to work 12 hours a day and you're going to be doing this, and you describe it in infinite detail so the potential employee knows what it is. And then you can post another job that is the version that the employee wants. And you can go back and forth between those because different people will apply to different things. But it is very important to make sure when you create a job that you describe the job. Because if you're just like, I need help, then the employees blow up because you give them random crap all the time. They need to know what they're signing up for. So when you're hiring an employee, you need to make sure that you are clear about what their job is going to be. And that means you need to write it down ahead of time and say, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And then when they show up, you say, this is how you do this, this is how you do this, this is how you do this. And then as time goes by, they do that, that, and that. And then when you need more help in other places, you delegate these next batch of tasks. Community too small. All of us night owls know why we should swap. We just refuse. Ben, that's good that you actually know why. Indeed is sending us people that are not having resumes. Click the checkbox that says they require a resume. Just got my first sale on Etsy today. I know it's not a big deal, but it felt great. Congratulations, 209. That is a big deal. The first sale is a tough hurdle to get over the first time around. So yeah, the fact that you've got it, like it's not all downhill from here, but you are over the first hump because most people do not get to the first sale. If I have a hole that is 90 degrees to the bed, how close should I design the support to the top layer so it doesn't fuse but can easily break away? If you are printing at a 0.2 resolution, 0.1 millimeters or 0.2 millimeters, sorry. 0.2 millimeters is generally the distance that I give for support. If you go to a smaller layer height, 0.15 is about as small as I ever go. Otherwise, you end up with fusing. The first sale of his products leads to the first sale of your company. Yep. Question. Community is too small. Number 2, 3D printing industry thinks too small. Okay. That one's winning right now. So we will use that as the topic here today for the podcast. All right. All right. Hang on, let me make some notes. I want to make sure that I hit this right. Here's the thing. You guys are all saying like that's the one you want, but I think there's going to be finger pointing to where a lot of you are going to dislike the thing I'm going to say. Because part of the reason that the 3D printing industry thinks so small is because it has been DIY for so long that there is a DIY mentality that prevents it from growing. Basically, people in the garage are like, no, printing can't make 1,000 parts because I can't make 1,000 parts. And that becomes a pervasive sort of attitude, even though it's completely not true. So no offense to everybody who has a printer at home, but it's going to sound like I'm making fun of everybody with a printer at home when I do that. I'm just qualifying that right now. But you guys asked for it. By the way, also with this, the thing I'll mention and I'll also tease, there's an issue within 3D printing that everybody uses the excuse of hardware is hard. And therefore, well, all the software companies get all the goodies, but hardware is hard, so we can't make as big as anything else. Bullshit. That one's bullshit. Bullpucky, big old steaming pile right there. Like it's basically just a bunch of excuse making. And the fact that 3D printing is old. Okay. I need other 3D printing news ideas, guys. What has been going on? Airbus manufacturing 25,000 3D printed parts annually with Stratasys technology. I've done this story already. We talked about this years ago, months ago, weeks ago. Why is this on front page? Oh, because it auto links to it from some past search. Intake system for Alpine's Alpine. Intrepid Automation partners with Rapid Fluidics. Stratasys launches post-processing. Volkmann, Fugo. Whoa, there's no news this week, guys. Whoa, that's brutal. Hang on. Let me get back here. Please, somebody give me some story ideas. Something I can investigate. Please. Columbia's 3D printing 3-course meal. Prusa cuts Prusa XL price. Sculptio publishes comprehensive guide. What? I'm Sculptio publishes comprehensive guide on improving pull-out strength of 3D printed insert. What? That gets an article? We publish a video a week about that kind of stuff. Good heavens. Oh, hello. Ooh, this is interesting. This is very interesting. Okay. I'm gonna save this one because I need that one. This one's a good one. This one's important. This one I want to talk about because China is doing stuff. TPU filament harness, blah, 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 blah. Fabaloo coming through. Carrie Stevenson does a good job over there. Okay. Other news topics? Anybody have any news topics? 3D printing industry has the same problem as the entrepreneur who needs to massively scale up his operation. Yes. It's pretty much kind of the decision to just scale up. We've had this, like this last year, we did not grow. Oh no, don't kill my preview. We needed to grow more than what we did. And it was because we didn't focus hard enough on sales, which is a very engineer-led company type of mistake. And, but we're fixing that right now. The reprioritization of time and focus and team has occurred, and we are pushing hard on stuff. Ooh, this is interesting. I'm going to go with this one. Man, Fabaloo, rolling with it. Fabaloo doing good this week. Yeah, 3D printed shoes and 3D printed shoe filament is all coming around. 3D printing news. Anything from Tom's Hardware? What? How to resolve the myth that 3D printing is just dragons? Here's the thing. That myth is only recognized inside of the 3D printing community. Again, like this is kind of the problem with the community is it's such a circle jerk that everybody thinks that what everybody else is saying is what the world thinks, and it's not. 3D printing is the definition of an echo chamber. Oh, 3D printing isn't food safe. Oh, 3D printing just makes dragons. That's because the 3D printer dudes only make dragons and say that they only make dragons and you can only make dragons. No one in the outer world has that perception of slant or 3D printing because no one in the outer world uses 3D printing. What else? Let's see here. Man, like our news sites have so much corporate published content, and I know that's rich coming from me, but like, gee whiz, there's not a lot of reporting. It is mainly just publishing, and I know it's tough because there's not a lot of news out there. But like, there are a lot of 3D printing companies out there, and if a news organization wanted to like run a podcast or do featured stories about companies and stuff, you can get 1,000 articles a year out of companies that are starting up if you wanted to go look for them. But since 3D printing publishing sites don't really make very much money compared to some things, there's not really good content on them, which is sad. We're going to get in on this. We're like, all these reporters don't have stuff there. We need to publish press releases more often. Yeah. What else have we got? I would like to know why PCTG. Why we're gonna release it on Tangled? It's a good material. I think PCTG is perfectly reasonable material. It's fairly easy to process. It can be more affordable, and it's not ABS or ASA because PCTG is much more stable from a warp perspective and has some good chemical features. Like, here's the thing, like, to get the perfect 3D printing material, you want something that is low warp, high strength, good chemical durability, and that's pretty much it. TPU is super durable, but too soft often. So you can make a high durometer TPU, but then you have hygroscopy. ASA is good and has good environmental resistance, but it warps too much because of its crystallization. ABS is garbage. PETG is too stringy and again is hygroscopic, so it loses print quality. PCTG kind of seems to be in one of those happy mediums to where it's not super hygroscopic. It does try to, it does appear to be reasonably decent at strength and durability and printability while having good layer adhesion. So it's a reasonable material. It seems to raise all the levels without having a major trade-off somewhere else. I design functional parts mainly for myself. It's faster, less expensive, easier than starting with a block of aluminum in a mill. Oh yeah, that's totally true. Foolby, are you selling your stuff? What are the printer requirements? If your printer can print PLA, or if your printer can print ASA, it's the same as PCTG. Oh, nice, Clinton. Clinton, you should start selling. You should connect your store to Teleport, and that way you don't have to print and ship the stuff. You can just get 1,000 printers on tap to fulfill those brackets for everybody else. It's helped me out. Oh, Dan SpaceX. Glad it's been helpful to you. Help resolve the myth that 3D printing is just dragons. Could you talk about Elegoo and DJI looking for more insight? Dan SpaceX, check the podcast from about 3 weeks ago. When that was announced, we did a discussion about that. MIT News, new 3D bioprinting technique may improve production of engineered tissue. Can't talk about that one. I don't do bioprinters. This is a rule that I have for the channel. Like, we have to be talking about manufacturability, not the bioengineering side of it all. How do you manage the sound decibels with so many machines? You have quiet machines. Our print farm has the din of like a server farm. The fans are louder than the machines. Okay. Do you offer printing of ESD PETG? Yeah, we do. Adam, if you need ESD PETG, we're actually going to be releasing an Enclosure maker app that will allow people to lay out an enclosure and then immediately just hit buy now, and it'll be printed in ESD PETG and delivered a couple days later. So that'll be built out. It'll be really similar to Cookie Conjure. So like Cookie Conjure, anybody who doesn't know, we're going to have to end this stream here in a minute, guys. But Conjure, there we are. Cookie Conjure is an app that we recently released where you can generate 3D models. And I'm just going to use one of the example photos here. But like, you can either describe your item. Actually, let's just say astronaut on the moon. I'm going to misspell it and see what happens. I think it'll adjust it. But it is a cookie cutter generator, and you can download models for it from free. From it for free, and it'll generate the cookie cutters. And like here, we got the nice little outline, and then you got the little stamp over here on the other side. And then you go from there. And there you got your little astronaut guy. So this is one of the things that we turned loose. But we will basically do this with the enclosures. Actually, I don't know if I published it Maybe I've published it. Enclosure maker.tools.com. Is it around? Oh my gosh! Oh, you guys are getting a sneak peek. Okay. It's published. It is not active yet. Like by the enclosure, I know is not turned on yet. I guess you can download the STL, but yeah, here this thing is. So if you're making an enclosure, most PCBs have a 4x4 mounting system. So we were just like, well, let's just make an enclosure that automatically has that so that you can go ahead and set the dimensions of your enclosure however you want. Doing this stuff. Well, that's a little laggier than I care for. I'll see what's up with that at some point, but you can go ahead and mess around with wall thickness and all these sorts of things if you really want to. And then the standoffs, you readjust them, and the standoffs basically are the layout of your PCB that's going inside of here. And you can slide it up to the maximum of the enclosure size. You can set your heat insert sizes if you're doing heat inserts, and I think we're going to default install heat inserts on these. And then you can also set your mounting holes. So if you want to use a screw or something else, you can set the holes to huge, and it'll upgrade all this stuff. So it's a really nifty tool. And then, yeah, once you lay out your box for whatever your application is, you can just go ahead and buy the box. And this will pop up and it'll send it through the API, and we will print this in ESD safe PETG. So yeah, I don't mind if people go and use this. It's going to have bugs in it because it's not supposed to be published yet. But we put it, we got it hosted, so it's there. And I probably shouldn't have turned it loose already, but get STL models from it for a moment. And then we have presets here for like certain enclosures and boxes already that will just automatically work based on the chip that you're using. It'll just create a box that is sized appropriately for that. So you can just pre-grab a box for these. And then if you're like, oh, well, I'm doing a special custom thing with it or something like that, you can just make your box higher so that you have more room for whatever you're doing and do all that. This is a little bit late. I need to see what's up with that. I think that's probably my internet connection. But the, yeah, so this is around. I'm always building enclosures. Yeah, enclosures. I build enclosures all the time too. And like many people do them wrong. We need, like, look at this. Look at this, everybody. Chamfer on the bottom, because that's what you're supposed to have. And it's in there automatically. So we know people design their enclosure correctly. But yeah, so anyhow, that's available now. Available in this moment to you guys. No, but I will at some time. I was going to give my designs to you. Oh, nice. Yeah, we should have catalog released here in a couple of weeks to where you can upload those models, and other people on Teleport will be able to sell prints of them. Let's see. Just wondered, as I'm a retired mixed model IC designer and always have one or two electronics projects going on. Nice. Is it built with OpenSCAD? No, it's not built with OpenSCAD. It uses an entire different modeling parameter. OpenSCAD is too slow. OpenSCAD over on ConjureCAD, we have OpenSCAD generation. But the yeah, OpenSCAD is a really, really slow modeling service, especially if you're doing online stuff. So there's way better modeling methodologies for these types of configurators, which are just much faster. Have a back burner project that will be outside, but have an electronic board and a device in it. Might be overkill, but if I need it, I'll use it. Nice. Yeah. Nice. Good. I'm glad this is something everybody's kind of interested in. Yeah, we got to get it all conjured up some more. But oh, this is also a good one, but I'm not going to talk about that one. All right. Yeah. Parameterized enclosure is super common, just so that people can knock out the different versions. Yeah. The main thing we wanted was just so that it was hosted and online, because FreeCAD and everything else, people have to download it in order to use it. And that's fine if you're doing it locally, but we needed a web service to where people could quickly modify the stuff. And again, like the presets, the parameterized presets inside of here for like each one of the different sorts of chips, we will continue to build out this list over time. Like, I don't know how many we've got in there. What's a teensy? How big is a teensy? Well, it's teensy, but Beagle bone black. Oh man, I haven't messed with these in a long time. It's been or yeah, you set up custom and wander through here and do whatever you want. Go crazy. Yeah. Is it possible to make a hole in that box? Yeah. Oh, yes. One of the things that we're thinking about adding on this is the ability to drag in some negatives so that you can have cutouts for like USB and other stuff, and you can just drop those wherever you want them. So we will add in kind of that STL bash sort of a mixture stuff, because like STL bash is right here. Where's STL bash? Go here. STL bash. STL bash is set up to do that sort of stuff. So right now you would create the enclosure, and then you come over here and you can drag and drop holes into it. But yes, you can absolutely go ahead and drill into it too. So when it arrives, right now we're intending, if anybody has additional stuff, they drill into the side of it. It's meant to replace like off-the-shelf generic boxes with a box that actually fits what you need it. So instead of having to roll through a catalog trying to see, will this box fit and what are its dimensions, you're just like, here's the dimension of my chip, make the box. Great. And it's ready to go. Cool. Alrighty, guys, I'm going to go take a quick coffee break, and I'll be back, and then we'll do podcast. And then, yeah, we'll roll from there. Hang on. Let me see this. I'll be back in just a minute, and I'll do podcast and news with y'all. And you guys can see that ahead of tomorrow. This mortal form craves sustenance. Oh, shit. What's up, Molly? Oh, good. Okay. I didn't know there was going to be this good of a reaction to the enclosure maker. I thought it was going to be slightly less relevant, but we might push it up a little bit more. I thought it was going to be something that we like drop in the back and be like, here it is. But no, maybe we should just do like a real launch of this thing. Ah. Yeah. Right here. Oh, wait. I'm not sharing. Yeah, you just reset all the dimensions and stuff on this thing. Let me refresh it. I think a refresh will probably help. But yeah, you start off here with a baseline, and then you can set like Raspberry Pi, regular Raspberry Pi, and it'll make a box for you based off those things. Or you can just go full custom and just basically define the size of the interior there, the interior space that you want. Make it as big or small as you want to. And then you can move the standoffs around to set whatever the size of your board is, whatever your chip is, and then go from there. And then it'll get you an enclosure that's all ready to go. The lifetime of a printer will depend on the manufacturer. Ours are spec'd for 24/7 operation for 5 years, which is, I mathed that the other day. I don't know how many hours it is. It's a lot. Can the standoffs be offset from the side? Not currently. Right now, they're centered in the center. Well, they're centered inside of it, and then they're basically measured. They're not measured from the origin. They're measured from each other. So it's a square. This was a 36 by 19 square. What is the reason for wanting them from a side? How's it going, Ben? Or Brahim? Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you don't want to do it from custom, you can just run through this list of stuff right here. We've got the Tensy, we've got the Beaglebone Black, Arduino Nano. Oh man, it's been so long since old chips. And then you can go ahead and like change some of the core settings of it all. This is something kind of dangerous that we want to avoid, because since the lid has thickness that goes inside, we want to make sure that the depth is always a minimum to where the lid will always fit with some change. Otherwise, people will get themselves in trouble. PCB is at one end of the box and the DIN rail at the bottom. Oh, that's fair. Quite frankly, I don't know if we'll get there. We won't be there on this version of it, because this one is just meant to be a box for some generic thing, to where you just need a box to contain some stuff. If you're doing additional engineering to where you have a DIN rail and all these other sort of things, then that will probably be an upgrade at some point in the future. Add multiple set of standoffs for the boxes, 2 boards. Oh, I see what you're saying. That will be possible. We will probably continue to give you the ability to, okay, you set height, you set width, and then you set like inside of here. So instead of a 4x4, you can go like 3x2 and so on and so forth. So then you can indirectly lay out to Brahim, where to sell? We don't have Etsy where I'm from. You might sell on portals. That one will work anywhere on the planet. Or you can set up an Etsy for the United States and use Teleport to sell items into the United States. So Teleport is a service that gives you 1,000 3D printers. You build out the whole store, market it to people in the States, and then when they make an order, Teleport will print the item and ship it to your customer for you. Okay, I'll be back. We're going to do podcast. I've had food. I can survive now. Okay. Get out of here. Podcast. 2 pieces of news. Tangled. Teleport. And then why the 3D printing industry thinks so small. Are there other updates that I need to do? Teleport? Tangled. Those are pretty much the things. Okay. We're live and we're recording now. Actually, let me just go ahead and do a clap. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Slant 3D podcast, the show about 3D printing and our place inside the industry. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Chinese 3D printer manufacturer numbers and indirectly going through some downloads of Bamboo Studio, which say that shipping has increased over there. And then we'll finish it up with talking about why the 3D printing industry has historically just thought so small about different things. But before we get into all of that, let's go ahead and pay the bills. This episode is brought to you by Teleport. Teleport is a 3D print service that can plug directly into your business, giving you 1,000 3D printers on demand, where you can immediately get an order and have that item printed and shipped directly to your customer for you. It takes about 15 minutes to get connected to an Etsy store, Shopify, eBay, or even TikTok Shop. And as soon as it's connected, you no longer have to run a factory. No more changing out filament every night. And now you can finally go on vacation occasionally and know that the orders will still show up on time for your customers. With over 99.5% of orders being shipped in under 2 days, you know that delivery is reliable. And Teleport has just recently been upgraded with additional designs that you can use for free as a user, giving you, 100 of those were just dropped, and they are some Valentine's cookie cutters if you would like to build out your store with a few extra items. So check out Teleport now over at slantpod.com. That's slantpod.com. Let's go ahead and get into the news. All right. App download data suggests sharp increase in Bamboo Lab 3D printer sales in 2025. So the graph here that everybody's can't see goes from 400,000 per month, 300 to 400,000 downloads per month, to 1 million downloads or per quarter. I apologize. 300 to 400,000 downloads per quarter to 1 million downloads in Q4 of last year. This is really astounding because the ramp of Bamboo has been Q1 2024 through Q3. It was about 100,000 downloads. Then Q4, it went to about 500,000. And then Q1 through Q3 of 2025, it was sitting about that 350,000 and then jumped to 1 million. This is per Fabaloo.com. Sales statistics are hard to come by in the 3D print world. Most of the companies involved in selling 3D desktop printers are privately held. Occasionally, we can get a hint of sales. That said, a new indication has appeared based on app downloads. A report from App Figures performs an analysis that is extremely interesting. Their database seems to cover the entire range of applications in the Apple and Google Store, and that includes the apps used by 3D printer manufacturers to connect to their devices. In question is Bamboo Lab's very handy control app, Bamboo Handy. It is basically required for every Bamboo Lab printer because the machines require binding to the Bamboo Lab cloud. This is done through scanning a QR code. Only machine... Why does the information from App Figures say? What does the information from App Figures say? Basically what I just ran through. Jumped to 1 million downloads. Totaling up the App Figures numbers for 2025 shows a grand total of something close to 2 million downloads during the year. Any way you cut it, that is a staggering number of downloads and probably machine counts. The total for 2024 seems to be around 700,000, suggesting that Bamboo Lab's unit sales grew by 3x between 2024 and 2025. If they keep that trajectory, their 2026 sales could be something around 5 to 6 million machines. At that scale, there are enormous financials involved. 5 million machines is about $5 billion in revenue. It's likely that Bamboo Lab is making hundreds of millions in annual profit at that level. Will Bamboo scale up to 5 to 6 million machine sales in the new year? Possibly. There's been rumors that Bamboo got to a valuation of about $10 billion earlier this year. If they could get to $5 to $6 million sales, 5 to 6 million sales of machines, that is a lot. In 2020, the total 3D printers on the planet were 1 million. This is 2020, 2019. 1 million printers on the planet. And now we are shipping 1 million printers per quarter per company. That is how massively 3D printing is scaling up and activating. I hope this is true. So from Slant 3D's perspective, the more people with printers, the more people there are creating stuff, the more opportunity there are for designers to create awesome products. And thereby, not everybody wants to have 1,000 printers. So having us have 1,000 printers that you can just access is terribly useful to folks. That downloads data can't really necessarily be well, it could be faked. It is possible. It's not hard to fake that kind of thing. A company can download its own app millions of times. But Bamboo last year was purported to have sold about 1 million units, 1 to 2 million units. So it's not unreasonable to say that they're increasing that much here in this last year. But yeah, ultimately, it's tough to find those sales numbers. There's a few reports that come out that give total machine sales numbers and sales revenue that, again, they kind of squish and guess based on information they get from industry sources. Those reports will be coming out later, but this is a good kind of first indicator. Second story from also Fabaloo. Chinese 3D printer production jumps 33% in 2025, with the United States as the largest buyer. We received some interesting data on Chinese 3D printer manufacturing stats, which is usually pretty hard to come by. The information shows explosive growth in production. For 2025, the data shows that the number of 3D printers produced in China was 5.03 million, a 33% gain over 2025, which would have therefore been 3.8 million, also a large number. That's an average 420,000 print machines per month over the entire year. However, the data also states that the month of December numbered 572,000. The data also speaks to the export value of these devices. According to the report, the export value of these machines was 1.6 billion in 2025, with associated parts worth more than 1.9 billion. The latter figure likely includes materials. The year-over-year export value increase was 39%. So I want to roll that back just a little bit. The export value was 1.6 billion. Bamboo is maybe trying to get to $5 billion of revenue this coming year. They are not the whole 3D printing industry. Last year, they shipped about 1 million out of 5 million, 60%. So they would only be, of their $5 billion, only about 1 billion of it would be going to the United States. Here's the thing. I don't know what the price of Bamboo machines are in China or in other parts of the world. I know in the United States, they're $1,000. So this is meant to discuss the fact that many of the 3D printers being manufactured in China are being used in China, not necessarily in the rest of the world. So this is an interesting sort of dynamic because I firmly believe that 3D printing will replace injection molding as the dominant form of plastics manufacturing in the fairly near future, because it's so obvious that 3D printing is a better way of making stuff over injection molding. So this whole question, if China is using more and more 3D printers, then they're looking to make more and more parts with them, which would replace their existing methodology of making those types of parts. All of this is to say that, like, again, only 1 million machines on the planet in 2020. And now we're shipping 5 million a year. And this year will be more. Creality is scaling up hugely. Bamboo is scaling up hugely. If the US has been buying 2 million Chinese printers annually and that number drops significantly, then it follows that the amount of 3D printing will also fall. Well, sure. The big question is, which US manufacturer would be able to fill the gap if Chinese 3D printers are blocked from sales in the US? There really aren't that many companies producing 3D printers, and they tend to be less capable and more expensive. Here's the thing. Like, this is a very real conversation. Is the US capable of making a 3D printer as advanced as Chinese machines, or as capable of Chinese machines? As a manufacturer of US-based 3D printers, yeah, totally. The benefits the Chinese have right now are certain components of scale, but I would say that their machine design is not necessarily optimal. There's not a large gap in the manufacturability of something like this, which is like a Chinese machine, and like the machines that we make. I would still argue that mechanically our machines are better. And then as far as like software and the electronics integration to it all, it is very difficult to make a PCB in the United States fully with US made chips and that kind of thing. If I wanted to just take an Arduino Mega from 10 years ago and pull up its BOM and try to get it made by someone, it would be kind of tough and kind of expensive. But the machinery for assembling those type of components are readily available through means. They are also made in the United States, but it is not that difficult to ramp up a 3D printer manufacturing company inside the United States. The existing companies, I would say, think about it a little bit too small, but the technology is around and the manufacturing acumen is around to where if somebody wanted to invest about $10 million in building up a printer factory that could output 40,000 machines a year or 40,000 machines a month, that is doable. That doesn't match the scale of 500,000 per month that the Chinese are doing, but that's only 1 year of investment. If you're selling 50,000 machines a month, that shows the investors it's valuable, and then you can scale up again the next year. So, oh man, maybe we should start up a consumer 3D printing business. I don't think so, because the only way you sell a consumer 3D printer is a technology problem. If the US banned Chinese printers, the acumen to build out the software stack and the user friendliness of the machine is very difficult and rare to come by. That magic of a Bamboo machine being connected is very difficult to replicate, and there are not current US manufacturers would not be able to match that. We would build for industrial use. So if we decided to consumer 3D printer again, it would be garbage because we do. We would basically have to spin off an entirely separate company and like just go full scratch, pushing at it for 3 to 6 months, fully building out that user experience again. And it would be unique, but I'm not sure it would be better. And better is defined by whatever you look at. But right now, I'm not planning on making a consumer machine. So overall, all of this is theoretical anyway. There was literally just news this morning that China has to delay their plans to invade Taiwan by years because Xi Jinping just fired his top generals and one of the last ones with actual combat experience. And it's really tough to do an invasion if no one has combat experience and you just fired your joint chiefs of staff. So this idea of China and the US heating up with each other kind of just went by the wayside because China just eliminated their operational expertise of how to have a war. So those are all, I don't know, thinking out about that stuff. China has cheap labor from the comments. China has cheap labor, which we don't. That's not true. Frida 67, W67. China has not had cheaper labor than the United States for about the last 10 years. If you're in Shenzhen or other places, they're earning almost very similar salaries. To such a degree, I was talking to a manufacturing friend of mine, and he was just like, the Chinese are looking to export jobs in manufacturing to not Taiwan, to the Philippines because they can't afford the salaries in China anymore. And in many of the manufacturing companies, there is the office in the big cities like Shenzhen, and then there's the actual manufacturing in some other city where it's cheaper. China doesn't have cheap labor anymore. That's gone. There's a famous conference from about 4 years ago where Tim Cook talked about making the iPhone in China. And he's like, China has not been the cheap labor leader for a decade. The reason we make stuff in China is because China knows how to make stuff. China knows how to make tools and dies and do advanced manufacturing and put together chips and iPhones better than anyone else on the planet. That is why China makes all this stuff right now, because they just have the expertise and the history and the experience. Cheap labor is not a part of it. Cheap labor is not a part of it at all. Not anymore. So yeah, anyhow, that is the news. Moving on to company updates. Tangled. We have gray PLA for $10 a spool, and we have black PLA for $10 a spool. And people still seem to like it because they keep on buying it. Somebody bought freaking 300 kilograms of it the other day and jacked up our production schedule. But the Tangled is all there. In addition to that, we will be releasing PCTG on Tangled for pre-order. This is how it's going to go. It may be live right now. Go ahead, go over to tangledfilament.com. You'll know if it's live. We are trying to get PCTG for below $25 a kilogram. This will do for PCTG what we did for PLA, which was just create the lowest cost version of it we possibly can. It will be on pre-order because in order to do this, we need to hit a minimum volume in order to hit pricing for raw materials and for the production run. PCTG has a raw material cost problem to where we have to hit those minimums. If we hit that goal, then we will go ahead and run it all and get it out to you. But everybody making these first purchases will be doing it to get a spool at some point in the future, about a month. And we're not a Kickstarter. We've delivered a lot of filament before, so it's reliable. If for some reason we do not meet that goal or hit that funding baseline, we'll see where we land and see if we can do one last plea to the manufacturer. Otherwise, we will refund everybody just automatically. None of this money is going to be spent. We just need to know that there are enough buyers present who are going to buy the PCTG to justify that run. It's not we're going to buy an extrusion line to make PCTG. No, it's all lined out. We're all good. Everything exists. We just need to buy the material and make the run. But we got to buy a truckload of the material. So we need a truckload worth of pre-orders of it. So go ahead and check out tangledfilament.com. Should be up and live for pre-order right now. If it's not, I'll remind you again next week. But yes, it should be black PCTG for under $25 a kilogram. Few wheels still turning. We maybe we can push it down to like $20 a kilogram on this first batch with free shipping. And then we'll go from there. So that is the update for Tangled. Teleport. On Teleport, as mentioned at the beginning, we recently dropped about 100 more designs over there that you can instantly add to your store and start selling if you want to. They are 100 cookie cutters for Valentine's Day. It's a little bit late for Valentine's Day, so get pushing real fast there. They've been up for a couple weeks. We also released the can shooter files on to Teleport. So if anybody would like to sell copies of these, they can. You have to have a Teleport premium account and signed in and connected to your store. And then you just match up the file to your listing. And when you get the order, it will print and ship on your behalf. So catalog is getting built out. There's about 200 files inside of catalog right now. We should be up to 250 in about the next week or so. And we want to hit about 2,000 by the end of the year. More updates about catalog coming next week. It will be exciting for everybody because it'll be a really good thing for designers because it's going to give designers a lot more income, a lot more control, and a lot more protection than has ever been possible with 3D models before. So that is terribly, terribly exciting. Additionally, with Teleport, the last week, we pushed a bunch of updates from our facelift. So some quality of life stuff. We cleaned up a few things, smoothed out some rough edges. There is international currency conversion inside of it now since the facelift, so that's cleaner. The onboarding's been refined a bit, and we are working on a few more key features coming to Teleport that will be coming out, in this next week to allow onboarding of sellers to be much faster and easier than it has been historically. So that will be releasing this next week in one form or another. And that's all I'll talk about with that. Tune in to the podcast next week to see what we do with the updates on Teleport. Okay. Before I get to the discussion topic of the day, I'm going to take a few questions from the audience, from the chat here while we're going through it. Let's see what everybody has. Let's see here. Yeah, no, we don't have too darn many down there. What category of products is the most profitable in Teleport, so you don't need to tell us specifics? Here's the secret to building products in general. You don't want to do what everybody else is doing because that's just bad business. The best thing to do, the most profitable product, is look at the things that you buy in your life. Oh, you got a koozie. I like this koozie. It's not quite made right now. So you either go find better versions of it that you would prefer more, and then you attempt to sell those by licensing the design, or you design it yourself. It is very important when starting a business that it is a business that you are interested in and you want to do. If you're doing it purely for, what's the top seller, you're not going to be very robust, and you're going to quit really early on. So do something that interests you and that you would pay for. And that way you become customer number one, and you know how to communicate this. Because if you're like, oh, purple heart loving butterflies are the best sellers over there. I hate those things, but they're the best sellers, so I'm going to try to sell them. No one's going to buy anything from you because they will smell the fact that you hate them on you. Okay. What else? I think that's about that. Okay. Moving on to the discussion topic then. The chat's going off the rails down there. Going into the discussion topic. The 3D printing industry thinks too small. It's really convenient that this week the news was about how many printers have shipped out. The 3D printing industry, the 3D printing industry has always been very kind of small-minded. I'm going to just use that as the generic phrase of it. Because for a long time, a print farm with 100 machines was considered big, and it's not. And a manufacturer that would sell 1,000 to 10,000 machines in a year was considered big, and it's not. We're to where everybody got into the kind of the small-minded mentality that it is this DIY hobby project, to where every single individual should build their own machine in order to then build their own stuff. And then you get into the thoughts of like, why would I pay for that? I can do it myself. And that's like saying, why would you buy this shirt? Why didn't you just knit it? You have access to needles and thread. Why didn't you do that? That's not what every operator inside the 3D printing world thinks, but it's always kind of there. And also the main customers that you interact with think those thoughts. Why would I use you? I'll just do it myself. Because it's a very engineering-based industry. That's a completely wrong-headed way of thinking about it, because you're thinking about the manufacturing cost, not about the scale or the value that it creates. In the last couple of years, there's been this ongoing conversation of like, oh, the curve of adoption. You have wild overhype, the trough of disillusionment, and then you come back out to practicality and utilization. And everybody's like, oh, we're down in the trough. We're down in the trough. Here's the timeline of 3D printing. In 2012, you had a 3D printer company get valued at $1 billion and get sold to Shapeways. And then in 2016, you had Prusa taking off. And then in 2020, you had 3D printers making masks and helping out, even though they really didn't. But that's a different story. And then in 2022, you have Bamboo. None of this is a trough. 3D printing has been progressively improving the whole time with like 1 to 2 year gaps where it looked like it was a trough because it was so small. 3D printing is scaling up very quickly and is really, really reliable and a great way. It is a great industry that has grown very quickly. But everybody inside of the industry doesn't think big thoughts. No one, for a long time, no one in the industry ever thought, oh, I'll replace injection molding. No, they're just like 3D printing will never make that much stuff. And this is a fight that we've had. Even though, like, actively right now, you have Wiglets, who is deploying 3 to 10,000 machines and is making between 40 and $50 million per year making fidget toys. Even though there's 1,000 bajillion people out there selling fidget toys, Wiglets is the only one that took it all the way, because everybody with a 3D printer at home was doing it as a side hustle or a DIY project or a hobby. And that side hustle, DIY project, hobby mentality has been so pervasive all the way from Prusa down to the person hobbying with it, that the industry just never gets out of its own way and says, oh, no, this is valuable and it works. Let's make 10 million machines. Bamboo did it. I would say that Bamboo was such a giant wake-up call to everybody, because there was a realization that, oh, 3D printing could be big if we stopped considering it a DIY technology. So you got this new advent of scale to where we went from 1 million 3D printers in 2020 on the planet to 5 million printers shipped last year. Here's the thing. So effectively, yes, 3D printing has just been trying to pull itself out of this DIY hobbyist, engineer, knowledge worker sort of a thing, to where now it can actually scale up because the rest of the world can engage with it. And there's more and more tools where people can get a hold of it. Like Bamboo is super easy to use. You can plug in a teleport and now you have 1,000 printers and you have to know nothing about 3D printing. You just grab a file and upload it, and now you're selling and distributing them. So the fact that 3D printing has become more invisible is starting to scale it up more. And then you have people like Zellerfeld, who are making real shoes that pop stars and famous people are wearing. And they're building out hundreds of thousands of machines to make tens of thousands of shoes so well that they're making the Nike Air. And yet simultaneously, you will still see in the 3D printing trade journals, oh, 3D printing can't scale up. 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was talking to an industry reporting research agency. And the questions they were asking me were, do you think that Wiglets can really do that kind of a thing? I was just like, they're doing it. Why is this even being questioned? It's right there. But it's such a pervasively bad thought that has been in the 3D printing industry so long, that 3D printing is unscalable, 3D printing is garbage, all this other bullshit, that no one in the industry can see what it could be. So it never becomes that. There is also, within the 3D printing entrepreneurs that I run into and interact with, if they're explicitly working in 3D printing, there's sort of a silly excuse running in their head. The cliche of, oh, hardware is hard. And I'm like, yeah, so what? Hardware is hard. You ever heard of Tesla? You ever heard of Bamboo? You ever heard of Prusa? Hardware is hard. Yeah. Get over it. Shut up and go back to work. But it is used so often as an excuse to say, oh, that's why we're small. Hardware is so hard, it takes us a long time. And by the way, to be fair, I have used this excuse. I think Slant 3D should probably be further along than we are right now. We are moving really fast, scaling up as quickly as we can and doing all we can to get big as quickly as we can. But I'm pretty sure we probably could have gotten a lot of what we've done faster. There's an evolution and aging of the team, but there's also just like an apathy, or like, oh, we're doing so well inside of this tiny industry that we're doing well, but you're not doing well. This, by the way, is another thing of the 3D printing industry. Since everyone has been so small, there's no one to compare against who's bigger than you. Prusa was the big dog until Bamboo just came in and said, yeah, we're just going to make 1 million machines next year. And then just blew past them. We need more of that inside of the industry so that people think bigger. Now that Bamboo is a $5 billion company that showed up 3 years ago, everybody's like, oh, these are the expectations that we should now be held to. And again, in all fairness, the industry has had about 30 years for this 40 years for this atrophy to take hold, because printing was invented in the 1980s in all of its different forms. All the technology we use right now is the exact same stuff that was in the 1980s. The chips are just smaller and the machines are a little bit cheaper. So there is nothing that is preventing, but because it's so old, printing got very industrialized and corporatized way earlier than it should have. And even as it got corporatized, the people who started working on the open source projects, bluntly, they were not teenagers. They were old guys who were coming from industry, who were working on it, and therefore think those old industrial thoughts. As compared to computing, Steve Jobs and Mike Wozniak built the Apple II when they were 20. The guys who started the RepRap project were in their 50s and 60s, with some students around, to be fair. But even so, there's just all of this kind of bad history combined with an industry that seemed to cause problems, and then also just a vitriolic community to where in 3D printing, since the current era of it has been based on a lot of open source stuff from like RepRap and patents running out and that kind of stuff, there has been this vitriol towards success. If Prusa grew too big too fast by overreaching or doing something that the community didn't feel was correct, then the community would pull them down or tear them down or try to break them. And that also happened with Bamboo until Bamboo got so big that they no longer care about that. So they pulled a judo move on the community of creating a machine that was so great that was still had machines fixable and that kind of stuff, to where the community got along until Bamboo started selling to so many other people other than the community that it didn't matter anymore. They still engage with the community very well. That's not totally fair, but that is part of it. So ultimately, the 3D printing industry just thinks small because its DIY history has everybody thinking that one machine is a lot and that one machine couldn't possibly make 100,000 parts. So it's impossible that a print farm can make 100,000 parts. The DIY mentality also just created a disconnect with what actual manufacturing can do, because hand building thing feels like the way that it's built, so you're like, oh, we could never make 100,000 machines a year because we're screwing this together. And you're like, that's not how factories work, which creates a disconnect there. And when you have young entrepreneurs who are too dumb to know what's right, but then they show up on a Reddit forum and there's this discussion that, oh, you can't ever build a 3D printer like that, and 3D printing will never be scalable, and oh, it's not food safe, and all these other myths and kind of stupid ideas floating around out there, that new, young, ambitious person gets turned off immediately. So they don't even try, even though there's no rational reason that any of those myths would be true. So what we are done is we have stunted the newcomers so they don't try new stuff, while at the same time building with the old timers in a way that is based from 1980 to where the industry is just circling the drain right from the start. It has so much potential. 3D printing is very obviously the best way of manufacturing pretty much any product. The control of the geometry, the ability to change it, the digital factors within it, and the scale that you can achieve for free. The fact that you can upload a file and immediately produce 1,000 parts tomorrow without that much shenanigans is huge. The fact that print farms are now large enough to allow people to create products is huge. And to be fair, this is one excuse that the 3D printing industry has for real. There has not been scale in the industry for a long time. So products could not actually be created. Everything had to be for hobbyists because there was not production scale to make the printed parts themselves. Now there is that type of production scale in multiple different areas, to where designers can now create products that are valuable, so that 3D printing can grow up to support these and will continue to grow. And this is what's really exciting about how many Chinese machines are being shipped, because there's 5 million people last year who got a hold of a 3D printer who didn't have one before, a lot of them. And now they're creating objects and products and that kind of thing. And normally all those ideas would be lost to the world, but now they can be made and distributed to other people who will never touch a 3D printer. So printing has been small, but we are so definitely at the inflection point because it has been a slow growth since, I'm going to say 2012, to where everybody's like, oh, we're in a trough, we're in a trough. No, we were in a small dip and everything kept on growing. And now we're at this moment where it can finally go exponential, because you can see from bamboo, they started out with 0 and then went to 1 million machines shipped a year. And they're going to try to 5 million machines next year. That's an exponential. So it is so hopeful where the industry is, that anybody saying that, oh, 3D printing sucks or anything else should just shut up and go home and get out, because you're slowing everybody down and nobody wants to hear about it from you because it's just not true. And you have been one of the loud voices in the industry for a long time. And we don't need you anymore because it's just not helpful. Every one of the excuses, every one of the myths, every one of the stupid ideas that has been ingrained in the industry for so long are all of those things, stupid ideas and myths. And it's now possible. We're at this point in the era where anyone can make something and create stuff and has tools available and machinery available affordably and reliably, to where there's going to be this explosion of amazing products that the world will be able to interact with and will help to reduce waste and reduce shipping cost and just make the world more efficient while also having more selection and more abundance. So 3D printing is amazing and incredible and will be one of the most fundamental enabling technologies of the next century. And it's such a better way of making stuff than carving a shape out of a rock and then shooting it full of plastic. So the 3D printing industry has thought small for a long time, but that's just demonstrably wrong and has been untrue. To where if you're starting a business or starting a company, you should be thinking big. You should think, okay, I just made one of these. How do I now make 1,000? How do I make 1 million of them? And be thinking those thoughts, because those thoughts are achievable, stupidly achievable. You just have to go do it. So if somebody else is ever in like a Reddit comment, or you post a video about your business or something, and they're like, oh, why do people want this plastic crap? Say fuck you, and then wander on with your life and just keep on growing, because everything that you're doing is better than the way it was done years ago. And it is a way better way of doing it. And the fact that we have the capability to do it is just magical. So keep on going, guys. The industry is going to get so much bigger over the next few years. People are saying, oh, it's going to be $30 billion by 2030. 3D printing is bamboo's worth $5 billion right now. And they're going to ship 5 million machines next year, 3 to 5 million machines next year. That will make them a $15 billion company in 2027. Probably more. There we are. We're 15% of the way to the 100. If everybody else can't at least copy them and do something equivalent, then I don't know what's going wrong, because the world's really broken, because that should be a layup. So anyhow, yeah, the 3D printing industry has basically just always been in its own way. And since it's been so DIY that everybody just thought about it really small. And like, if you are even the hobbyist in the garage, you should be thinking about how fundamental and absurdly powerful this is, that you have it, and so hopeful about what it enables. Because yes, we do not all need to make our own shirts, but the fact that that technology is around, and the fact that you can design something for your wife or your husband and then get 1,000 of them made tomorrow without having to cut a mold or ship it across an ocean, is magical. And that you can now design a shoe and upload it, and the whole world can see it, and it'll be up alongside a Nike Air Max. That's absurd. Or you can design a lamp and that you did in your industrial design class, and then get 1,000 of them made in a couple weeks. That is all incredible, to where designers can create just amazing products and go from there. So now that that manufacturing capability is available, the creation of stuff is just going to expand. It's like being on YouTube in 2008 and saying, oh, there's only 1,000 people on here making videos. This is never going to be anything. But yeah, YouTube wasn't about the 1,000 people currently on it. It was about the 2 billion people that could start making it after that. It's insane. Alrighty, so that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this week. Tune in next week to see if there's anything up. Check out Tangle Filament, see if we got the PCTG up there for pre-order. And beyond that, comment down below any questions that you want to see or have us talk about at next podcast. And I'll see you all next week. Have a great one, everybody. All right, coming back to you guys in the chat there. Chat was like talking with itself, so you guys didn't have like any questions, so I couldn't stop the flow. It says on the website you print all parts 1 millimeter walls, 25% infill. Does that translate to 2 to 3 walls on my slicer? Generally about 2 walls if you're using a 0.4 nozzle. Yeah, for the first time, I can actually sell the stuff I made because I don't look like a pile of junk anymore. Leviathan 707, that's the small-minded 3D printing thing coming around again. 3D printing never looked like crap. People made crap, but 3D printing in itself is not bad. Like, you were able to get this print quality back in 2018. Ultimaker did that. It's just nobody owned an Ultimaker. It cost $2,000, $2,000 to $3,000. Matte filament back then, but it just wasn't popularized. The bamboo changed print quality. They just popularized better print quality. And that was kind of the change that came around. And also in the early days of 2018 wasn't the early days, but in 2018, the bad print quality generally came because people would just use 0.3 layer resolution, which was always the draft, and just going down to 0.2 immediately improved it. And by the way, fuzzy skin has been in Cura since forever because everybody has known that that is the solution to perfect surface quality forever. And yet it's only really been like the last 2 years that people have started to use it on the regular. I want to ask, do you offer the option to assemble other components mid-print, such as nuts and bolts, NFC tags? Of course, it will be more expensive, no doubt. Oh, for sure. Yeah, if you're on the enterprise tier of Teleport, you can get assembly and that kind of stuff included with your parts. So that's definitely an option. Down at regular premium, you can go ahead and just have those parts included. And then you can do like a custom insert card with like instructions so the customer can assemble it really easy. And we've got, I don't know how many parts we have in catalog right now. I think we've broken 100 third-party parts that you can include. But if you want more, I'm pretty sure you can add more. Let me actually go here. I want to see what catalog is looking like right at the moment. New item. Components. And then filaments. Okay. The problem is the public perception of band quality. That's not a public perception. The public has no perception of print quality. That's another one of those 3D printing myths. It is only the 3D printing industry that cares about print quality. The public perception is that here is an object. So long as it's good, it solves the problem and doesn't misrepresent itself, it's fine. It is only 3D printing nerds that whine about print quality. The customers will just not buy if they don't like it. And if they do buy it, then it's fine. This is a universal truth. Hello, love portals. When a sale is made, how long does it take to see the portals teleport pod website? If a customer asks for a refund, is it refunded from the account? So it'll take a few hours for the sale to post, and it'll show up inside of your teleport stats. Let me do this right here. So your portal sales show up down here in portals orders. So you've got your portals over here, and then you can go to your analytics that's inside of teleport, and then it'll show portals profit, portal sales, all the rest of this. And then also up here, your portal sales are right there. So you can see whatever your stats are right there. And then if you click on that, you can request a payout if you hit the minimum $25. So that's how that gets turned loose. And if a customer asks for a refund, the customer refunds inside of Teleport. Yeah, obviously, if the item is canceled or refunded, then you lose that income from it because the item wasn't sold. But we handle all of that with the customer. On portals, you're effectively licensing the design to us to print on your behalf because we handle support, returns, processing, all the rest of that. So it's not supposed to be on you. No doubt people will probably message you because very often you post your stuff on your Instagram and it is your store. But the processing of the refund and that kind of stuff is done by us. But Gabe, I wanted a guy to go to you and have his stuff 3D printed, and his reply was a long list of excuses. So I think he went and had a mold made. He will never get his money back. That's not an uncommon story. Everybody's like, oh, 3D printing is so slow and expensive, so they don't even consider it. Like, literally, right now, here's the thing. Like, on our website, we released an autoquoter, slant3d.com, because we got tired of coding like parts for one part and 100 parts. So this is separate from teleport and that kind of thing. But this quoter, you can upload a file. Sure, what is this? I'm going to upload this claw. This is a big claw. It's going to be an expensive part. Yeah, it's like yay big or something like that. But you upload this claw, and then it immediately quotes somewhere between 1 and 1,000 of them. Because 1 to 1,000, it's just so much effort that it's got to be that. If you got into 10,000 or so, the part per part cost would probably drop to like $3 or $4. But this thing is not moldable, first of all. It also has a ton of support, which is mainly the reason it gets so expensive, because you have to have a human pull off the support. But yeah, anybody can like instantly quote 1,000 parts. And by the way, to get the one part for $13 is a screaming deal, because I don't think. Oh, actually, this is interesting. Let's go ahead and do this. What does PCBWay do? I'll put myself up there live. I don't care. If PCBWay is cheaper than us, I don't care. That'd be good to know. I know what our pricing is. I stand by it. We have our reasons. Let me grab this here. What do they charge? I'm going to break PCBWay because I'll bet it's more. Ha 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 ha. Wait, make sure I'm not lying. PLA. We'll do black PLA. Oh, interesting. So their white PLA is cheaper than their black PLA. Their white PLA is about the same cost as us. Wait, were we 13 or were we 17? We were, and that's not including shipping. Guys, you have no idea how satisfied I am about that, because I love being better than China on manufacturing stuff. Okay, so let me just lay this out. So I just uploaded a 3D printed claw to both PCBWay and to our production prototyper quoter. In production, the part is $13.04 from us to make one of these parts in black PLA. On PCBWay, the cheapest PLA option that I could find was $17. That does not include shipping cost, which is not calculated yet, and it still has to go into a request, so they could still turn this down. But their black PLA actually is even more expensive, costing $28. So made in the USA with an automated 3D print farm, it costs $13. Or you can go with the Chinese PCBWay and have it printed exactly the same, probably worse. It'll take longer, and it costs more than double for the same specs. I just have to say that I'm very, very happy about that and super satisfied. I'm totally happy about that. Oh yeah, Sin-Cut Sin is also cheaper than PCBWay. Yeah, hoorah, America! Like, guys, I can't even tell you how happy I am. I didn't know if that was going to work. I haven't checked on PCBWay in like forever. Will it give me the shipping estimation? Like, yeah, there's no. Maybe they. Oh, okay, no, VAT and freight excluded. Yeah, that's not even including shipping. This is with shipping. That's done. That's the whole thing. Oh well, no, we have shipping on here too. Sorry, you got to select that one. And then you say 83716, so I got to ship it to myself. And then it'll auto-calculate the stuff. There we go. And it's $5 to ship it. Whatever. Big deal. Oh, guys, I really cannot tell you how tickled I am about that whole thing. That's hilarious. What are the other ones? Yellow, gray, yellow. They're all the same. Okay, so PCBWay, their white is effectively their black. White is really more expensive from us most of the time because white gets stained, so you have a higher reject rate. Marble, silk, gold, all these things are pretty much available inside of like Teleport. We'll be releasing a few of these multicolored things inside of Teleport. Oh, and their infill is less. Our default infill is 25%. Bam. Oh, we're just better in every way. Like there's not even gray area in it. We're just better in every way. That's hilarious. I am so happy about that. All right, what are other questions? Can I make 4 duplicates of a portal link for testing conversion on different platforms, or are too many duplicates frowned upon? It's not frowned upon by us. We won't dock you for that. I can't guarantee they'll all get the same number of organic traffic, but we have no algorithmic setup to where if you created 20 of the same listing for A/B testing, it would cause a problem. Treehouse prints, if that's scaling up and you're like doing more and more of that and your story's growing, talk to us and we'll work on it. You got to start moving a lot of volume through us, but we would start designing in that functionality for you. Portals is kind of a weird spot to where like it's growing and everybody's consistently using it, but we're like, we need it to age in a little bit more before we do another big old product push. Because Portals was an experiment. Portals was like a really high risk experiment and still is. Also, by the way, not profitable, but it's growing in a way that's interesting and it's kind of our long tail experiment. So yeah, once we kind of see the direction it's going where it's most useful, that's what we'll do. Learning to force geometry for stronger parts is really satisfying. Yeah. Well, I could print it for $1. Zenterno, no, you can't print it for $1. Here's the thing. I'll walk you through this. This conversation comes up a bunch. You can print it for $1 of plastic. That might be true, but you're not factoring in everything else. So here's the thing. If you actually run a business, you have to pay yourself and you have to pay people, which means that you have to have owner's salary and employee time. Here's the thing. Like this print price calculator shows you all of your cost. So let's upload that same part and it'll analyze through here, give us weight and everything else of what it takes to get it made this way. This part costs $23 to get made or sold out. That's with $8 of marketing. I'll turn off marketing expenses here. By the way, you can put in your conversion rate and your cost per click and find out what your marketing cost is. Default conversion rate on most stores on the high side is 3%. And you'll obviously get organic. Returns, you'll have 16.9% of returns. That's industry standard on Shopify. So you have to have that cost. Packaging is not that expensive. Let me do the smaller box for that. So you got packaging for it. You got your failure rate, which costs some stuff. You got to pay rent because if you're only making 100 parts a month, that's what it is. Also, by the way, you have your labor cost inside of it, which is a couple bucks. You got $2 worth of material. So your $1 buck estimate is incorrect. Because if you're paying $25 for filament, here, let me say you're using tangled black PLA. There you go. It's $1 if you're buying PLA for $10 a spool from a US manufacturer that makes filament for $10 a spool. Even then, electricity costs $10 if you're in a really cheap place like Idaho. Labor is $275 of just post-processing it. We have not included owner time, but if you're running an actual business, there is owner time. If you're running a side hustle or a self-employed thing, fine, you can just pay yourself. Rent, if you're only making 100 parts per month, failure rate, all the rest of that. And then taxes. Your income taxes are a part of this. Wait, taxes are not. Let me get 3716. Look up. There we go. And then you also have taxes. Oh, the taxes are not popping into there. We got a software bug in the thing. Oh, well, life will go on. Or I just haven't. Oh, there we go. There we are. Profit per sale. You're going to have $1.50 of tax on this in order to get sold profitably. And then let's go ahead and say you make no money on it at all. It cost $12 to make this part. And we just sold it for $13. Also, by the way, doesn't include slicing time because our slicing is automated. But if you were doing it, you had to drop it in and slice it, which is separate from the post-processing time. You can't make it cheaper than us. The numbers don't lie. I'm falling down on that. Literally, like right here, $12.34 to make it yourself, $8.61 to make it on teleport. Yeah, and the reason we're able to do that is because our rent is not as high because we've got 3,000 machines inside the mega farm. So our rent per machine is lower and rent per part is lower. So we just have that scale advantage. And then our labor is spread out more and just more efficient. And then, well, rent's the big one. Returns are whatever they are. Packaging we can get for cheaper and that kind of stuff. So like there's just all these economies of scale to where we can make a part cheaper than a person can make it themselves, or that a small business can make it. And that allows us to allow the small businesses to use us to make this stuff, because you can like plug teleport into your business and then sell it for profit. And you're getting a 50% profit on top of the manufacturing cost with teleport. So you effectively can outsource a print farm. So if you're a design company or a prototyper company, you can wrap Slant 3D as a print service for your white label print service. Is there a 3D printing consortium, an organization that could promote advertising that would dispel myths and help the industry grow? David, I think that's a great idea. I don't know of one, because the industry as a whole doesn't agree with this whole thing. This is part of the reason that we built this YouTube channel. Was like we wanted this YouTube channel to be a beacon of what 3D printing can do. So like the very first videos we did, it was always 3D printing versus injection molding, where we just had that discussion of like, this is how you redesign it to do it. Injection molding can't make this part, but now you can get all this cool functionality out of it. Where's my extra can? I put an extra can down somewhere. Oh yeah, like this molding could not possibly manufacture this part without fully changing it into something weird. We have a video coming next week for a product called T-Mat, where we redesign an injection molded part and we so kick its tail. So beautifully recreated as a better option than it was. Like, again, the positivity for what is possible with 3D printing, it's all possible. Like, we just radically improved this product using printing while still making it mass manufacturable and replacing a really crappy injection molded design. You have a great building, but the rent seems high for the square footage of a printer. You should separate product. What fool? You don't know what my rent is. Rent on the calculator. Rent is calculated by whatever your parts per month is plus your monthly rent for whatever your space is. So our public rent is not publicly available. No one knows what we pay for rent, except my landlord. But yeah, our space, the main production floor, we've got 3,000 machines distributed across the space. The mega farm is 15,000 square feet. Very little of that is office. Many of the people work on the production floor itself. I almost require that. Is there a way to do a pre-check on a model before submitting it to portals or teleport? The best way to do it is just to order the model from you. We're working on kind of that sort of a function, which is like photo prototyper. We don't know how valuable it is. It is useful for our international sellers. And yeah, we're just not sure how valuable it is. And we haven't found the right way of implementing it in a way where it's useful. Well, I could print it for $1. Oh, Centaur, sorry, man. Well, you put it out there. Yeah. Is there, let's see here. Okay, I think we pretty much got all this stuff there. I have 3D, they just never seen you or Slant 3D. There's a public perception that 3D printing can't meet the expectations. We should talk over lunch. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Have a few people just poo-poo 3D printing. Yeah. No, yeah, it's super common. Mainly engineers, but again, they're not the ones who buy the parts. If the part is cheaper and meets the spec, it's fine. And engineers have a certain amount of arrogance to where if you say 3D printing is fine, and they say no, injection molding is better, and you say you're wrong, the engineer immediately hates you. So we have had kind of the conversation internally of like, we got to wait for a bunch of people to die. And then all these young engineers who came up using 3D printers will be excited about stuff. PCB wages face planted. They currently don't support PayPal, making them very hard to deal with. Ooh, that's rough. Yeah, molds are really not cheap. Adam Carver. Let's see here. True, I don't know your rent, but it's a great building. Your point was printers don't take as much space as a person developing software. Oh, I'm not sure I agree with that. A person developing software, the difference between a person developing software and a printer is that a printer is directly calculable around ROI. A software developer, which is effectively a creative endeavor, all engineering is effectively a creative endeavor. You do not know if that person will pay for themselves. And software can be instantly repaid, but since we're a manufacturing company, the software in our company isn't like a direct monetary source. Sure, there's like subscriptions from Teleport, which is a direct software enabler or source of revenue, but it's not significant. We make our money from making parts, and the software enables the making of parts, which is brutal because software developers are really expensive. Even with AI, I can't get them all replaced. But software developers are really expensive to where if I was thinking about like the cost of operation for that square footage, the rent for paying 4 machines is way less than the expense of a salary sitting in that slot for 4 machines. So the developer's kind of worse, even though they can have a much higher return. Most people with a small business forget to pay themselves a salary. The first thing the lawyer of my brother-in-law said, pay yourself salary. Yes, you need to pay yourself and pay an employee. If you only pay yourself, then you're just an employee and you can never hire anyone. So your pricing and your business model is never built out so you can hire someone. So whenever you start a business, you should pretty much pay yourself double. And then you cut that in half when you hire someone. I may never use Teleport, but a service like that is on my roadmap to scale up because I'll never hire help. That's fair. Yeah, that's true. Like people, this is the other like hidden cost. If you have employees and you don't have work for them to do, you still have to pay them. With Teleport, we only get paid when we do the work. And then we're able to keep our employees busy because we got 10 or 100 or, well, we have 10,000 different businesses running through us. So they all get to take a piece of our employees' time. So our employee is full-time, but you don't have to pay a full-time employee to do your one little thing. So again, it's one of those economies of scale. All right, folks, it's about time. I got to go do other stuff. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hey, Botello, surfer guys. Let me know if there's anything else you want us to go over, but I got to go upload the podcast to YouTube, and we'll roll from there. Let me know if you have any other questions or things like that, and we'll have a stream again tomorrow. The stream again tomorrow will be at noon because podcast comes out at 11, and then we do the stream afterwards. So, yeah, I'll see y'all later. Have a good one, and yeah, see you later. See you guys.